We're 26 days out from the most consequential elections in the history of Guyanese elections. Do you think Guyanese have made up their minds who they're voting for? Or do you think there are still undecided voters?
Most definitely, there are still undecided voters. You have a great portion of our people who are already aligned to political parties, more precisely, the two large political parties in the country. But you always have that small percentage that really decide where the elections will swing. And I think that they are still focusing on the policies, they're still looking at projects, and they're still looking at the direction in which political parties can be able to justify their programs to deliver to the people. I personally believe that the APNU, the organization I'm a part of, the political movement I'm a part of, is in a very good position right now with our Guyanese people because of the magnitude of corruption that they have seen over the last 5 years. And mind you, the last 5 years was the beginning of unprecedented times in our country, given that we have become an oil producing nation. And what people wanted to see from the government the last 5 years, I don't think they have managed to see that. And in that context, I believe they will vote resoundingly in support of us, the APNU, that have presented policies, projects, and programs that will be putting them first.
Well said, well said. Mr. Mahipaul, Guyanese citizens are focused on a range of concerns, but let's touch on your vision, the APNU's vision for economic equality and growth. Despite the economic growth given by the oil production, concerns about rising inequality and inflation persist. How would your government promote inclusive growth?
Well, we have to first of all look at where we are right now. And as a country, we have been producing oil, as I indicated earlier, which has boosted our financial status as a country, and it has really placed us on the map. So gaining from in terms of revenue, we have increased that significantly. But we have to talk about the diversification of our economy, the investment in agro processing. We have to talk about expanding how how we will produce in our country. And the APNU, we are looking at bringing relief to our people, especially with this high cost of living and inflation and all of that, by not only talking about the higher oil revenue through several mechanisms that we will be exploring in the 5 years, but we're talking about effective management of public finances, reduction in corruption. We believe that on every dollar, once we can address corruption, we will be able to have about 30 cents on every dollar placed back into the hands of the people. You see, empowering people is what is important in everything we do. I have said countless times, and I will say again, Guyana is right now too rich a country for us, the people, to be this poor. And if we invest in our people and we increase their disposable income and they're able to benefit themselves and trickle down that to their families and so on, we can address several issues. Our economy has to grow, and it can only grow if we develop policies to promote higher business development and more investment. The industrialization of the nation is really important for us to have a stable foundation to move in a direction of really developing first, as I said, our people.
Uh, Audience, if you're just joining us, we're having a conversation with the vice presidential candidate of the opposition party in Guyana. Uh, Mr. Mip, Paul, I must say one thing for the listeners. Guyana is the fastest growing economy in the world per capita. And we have a lot of challenges that we must talk about. Of course, we'll talk about healthcare and we'll talk about social and racial equality, but I want to bring in our intimate panel because the perspective is very important. I want to start with Dr. Ivor Griffith. Welcome into the conversation, Dr. Griffith. Definitely, I want to bring aboard Deidre and Pastor and Jeff as well. Go ahead, Dr.
Morning, glad to be here again. Congratulations, Mr. Mahipaul, for the identification as presidential candidate. I want to raise a couple of issues and get your thoughts on them. But let me begin with this. Last week, I did an article, and if you're interested, I'll share it with you. It was an analysis of electoral contestation in the Caribbean. I spent some time in Guyana, of course. And I ended that article by invoking the name that many of us in the developing world know, the former Prime Minister of India, Indira Gandhi. And this is what Gandhi said, and I invoke it in that article. More important than who wins or who loses in an election is the opportunity to strengthen the nation. I want to focus on that and suggest to you, Mr. Mahipaul, that there is need to strengthen lots of things in Guyana. And I would contest that there's the need to strengthen many institutions, one of which is the Guyana police force. Talk a little bit about what your party's vision, intent would be to strengthen the Guyana police force among other institutions in Guyana.
Professor, thank you very much, and it's great to be in your company. You have touched on something that I am very passionate about, and I'm really moved by the fact that you have raised this, and it gives me the opportunity to speak to you and the public here. I believe that Guyana for too long have had systems and structures that are allowing politicians to infiltrate them. And all the years back, you see that every time there is a change of government, the structure and system becomes vulnerable, and politicians then take control of the public sector, and the professionals are not allowed to function effectively. I am very passionate about this, and that is why in my political organization, my movement, the Partnership for National Unity, I have stressed to our leader, and he has accepted it gracefully, that there is need for us to have stronger institutions and systems in place. So regardless of who comes as the next government, who comes as the next president or ministers, they must understand that their role is to be in the policy direction and executing the policy, accounting for the state's resources, and enhancing transparency are crucial principles that will ensure you have a foundation in a nation that is guarded and protected for the benefit of the people. In other words, I am saying that with us as the APNU in government, we are prepared to not shut out the opposition. We are prepared to amend the laws of our country to have a reflection of the opposition also. I will give you some examples. When it comes to state boards in Guyana, right now, there are no opposition representatives on the state board unless there is a law that mandates an opposition presence. Take, for example, the University of Guyana. The leader of the opposition enjoys, by way of the law, one seat on the University of Guyana board. But when it comes to Oil, the Guyana Oil Company, there is no opposition representative. That is a board that controls the fuel that is being dispersed across the country. It's a revenue earner, and there is massive corruption right there that we have knowledge of, that we have exposed in the past, and some more has arisen. For example, the chairman of the Oil board owes Guy Oil in excess of $5 million, is also the chairman of Gaisuku, or the CEO, sorry, of Gaisuku, the sugar corporation. And Gaisuku has in excess of $400 million indebted to Guy Oil. And it's one chairman or one person that sits as CEO of Gaisuku and as chairman of the board. And then you have the Guyana Lands and Survey Commission that deals with state lands. No opposition representative for the past 5 years. No board has been put in place. The CEO and the president are dealing with that directly. They're distributing state lands and so on. You have several other boards I can talk about, but specific, I want to focus on the National Procurement and Tender Administration Board. That is the board that is responsible for contract awarding. Billions and billions of dollars have passed through that board in the most recent of time. No opposition representatives on that board. The government in 2022 promised to look at the tender board processes and to amend the law so that it can be more transparent and accountable. From 2022 to now, nothing has happened. A couple of months back, I, in the National Assembly, asked for an update on e-procurement. Nothing was provided. The government does not want to address the procurement laws because what it does is that it funnels billions of dollars into friends, families, and favorites of the government. We are saying, as the new government, we will amend the procurement laws and ensure that in the composition of the procurement laws with board members, there must be a space for opposition's presence. Opposition presence will hold government accountable. So even though we know that we will be able to do what we have to do as a government, and we will be transparent and accountable, we can guarantee that with the presence of the opposition. And I believe that there ought to be systems and structures that are put in place to, one, guarantee opposition's presence for greater oversight, and two, to ensure that public servants are protected and will not have to be forced to wear party paraphernalia and deck themselves out in party colors to show allegiance. I can tell you, Professor, I have been in the system as a regional information officer in the past, and several accounting officers, and this may come as a shock, but it is factual. Several accounting officers who are mandated by law to hold the government's purse, preserve its sanity and sanctity, and are responsible for accountability and transparency, have reached out to me and complained that politicians are giving them directives that they need to move money from one line in the budget to another line to expend on matters that are relating to campaigning. And it is wrong. But if they don't do it, they can lose their jobs. I want to see a system, the APNU, we want to see a system where these public servants are first employed on the basis of merit. And when they're employed on the basis of merit, they must enjoy job protection so that when they execute their functions in keeping with the law and they have to go against certain political directives that do not promote accountability and transparency, and they speak up against it, they must not feel feared or violated and subject to losing their job. We have too much people that are politically associated to parties holding positions that are supposed to be guardrails of our democracy. And we want to see, as the APNU, a system where that can be protected and isolated from political interference. My last point I will make to that question. Recently, in the National Assembly, no less a person than Mark Phillips, the Prime Minister, whom I thought would have been on the program with me, he indicated in the National Assembly, in our National Assembly, that a contract was awarded to a company called Method 4, because Method 4 went through the system of bidding for the contract, shortlisted, was awarded, And I think it was to the tune of 7 million US dollars. And he indicated that that contract was awarded to Method 4 in the National Assembly. It was through rigorous and intense research, through communication, through dialogue, and through people, whistleblowers saying to us that Method 4 was forgotten about, and the government secretly engaged with a Dominican Republic company called Interenergy Group, and has now moved in the direction of facilitating
Okay.
Interenergy Group. So here is it that you had a process, a process where companies responded to an advertisement. What they were shortlisted, they were evaluated, and a decision was taken that Method 4 is the company that is best suited for that position. And the government secretly, after telling the parliament, secretly pushed that aside and went to into energy. Those are the kind of structures and systems that are very vulnerable in Guyana. Those are the structures and systems that are not protecting the people's money. Those are the systems that are enhancing corruption, nepotism, cronyism. It's not transparent. And once we fix those systems, regardless of who becomes president, regardless of who becomes ministers of government, regardless of which politician comes in the future, they will not be able to break down the guardrails of the democracy. And that is where our problem lies. And we in the APNU are very focused. As I said, I'm extremely passionate about fixing it. And why we have to fix it is because my children, my grandchildren, my great grandchildren, the future generation ought to be protected so that they can enjoy a better Guyana than what we are having here right now.
Mr. Mahipaul, excellent. But can you keep your answers to 2 minutes? We have a panel and everyone wants to get a question in. We have to come back over to Dr. Griffith. I'd like to bring in Pastor Straker and Jeff. We have the vice presidential candidate here for the opposition party in Guyana, South America. Jeff, your question to Mr. Mahipaul.
Yeah, well, good morning. Thank you for being here. And so I want to get back. You had talked a little bit about industrial policy initially. So could you tell us some specific industrial policy that you're proposing that will, help to grow the economy and provide long-term security for the people of Guyana? And does a sovereign fund fit into any of your proposals? Something that would be similar to Norway's, that invest these oil profits for the long-term profit of the people there.
Well, let me say, first of all, it is very difficult for a politician to just speak for 2 minutes, but I'll try. Let me say to you, that when we talk about the sovereign wealth fund, well, we call it here a natural resource fund. We have intentions of ensuring that we save 25% of what we gain so that it can be there for the future generation. And we have intentions of investing in not only infrastructure, but in avenues and areas that can give us greater returns too. So take, for example, agriculture. Agriculture is not really spread out vastly in our country. So one focus we want to be on is increase agriculture production in the hinterland regions like Region 1, Region 9, Region 7, Region 8. And if you know the geography of Guyana, those are our highlands. And we want to invest in agriculture production so that we will become once again not just the food basket of Guyana, but the Caribbean. And we want to have more locals in terms of planting and growing and less importation, so that we will be able to increase our exports and be able to feed ourselves. When we talk about, we can also look at not only rice and sugar, but we can look at also diversifying. Rather than just having the raw material, we can look at the byproducts and what are other things that we can develop within that context to not only ship the raw products out, but the byproducts and the value-added products that can enhance our economic growth. And we want to also enhance small business development, where that will help in lifting the ordinary folks and raising their living standard and increase what is necessary for our development. So when we talk about broadening our economic development, it's all about diversifying. It's all about us investing in the non-oil sector, agriculture in particular, and see how best we can lift our people at the same time to raise them out of the nightmare they're currently in. I trust I did that in 2 minutes.
Thank you. I think you did great.
Thank you.
Absolutely. I want to jump back in for a minute before I bring back in Dr. Griffith and Jeff. The pastor had to leave. Once again, audience, we're having a conversation with the vice presidential candidate of the APNU party, and the Guyanese elections coming up in 26 days. Mr. Mahipaul, let's talk about healthcare for a minute before I bring back in the other panelists. You know, Guyanese citizens and Guyanese in the diaspora are so concerned. Everyone that I know is afraid to get sick in Guyana. I have friends and associates that travel out of Guyana every time something goes wrong because of the poor healthcare system in Guyana. How would you address that if you prevail on September 2nd?
So let me say, first of all, poor health care has a lot to do with how it is being administered and delivered to. And again, because of political directives, the morale of the staff, doctors, nurses, and other workers within the health institutions, they are not as enthusiastic as one would expect. I have oftentimes said to people that sometimes when you are sick and you go to the hospital, once the staff is able to put a smile on your face, I think 50% of the problem is addressed. But we have a very demoralized staff complement because of political interference. We have a very low paying profession in terms of our doctors, nurses, and other staff. And we have to find ways of first addressing our people that are working within the healthcare facility. We can build all the hospitals we want. We can have all the modern equipment and everything that we need. But if we don't have the people to do the work properly and to put a smile on the patient's face and to administer healthcare in a professional, safe, and conducive environment, half of the problem will not be addressed. So to complement the construction of hospitals across the country, to complement having better equipment and to complement all the other infrastructure needs, require also a focus on the people who will be administering. We need to ensure we have higher paying nurses and doctors. Auxiliary staff ought to be benefiting also, and make the environment more conducive. That is why our proposal is to increase income tax threshold to $400,000. That means that everybody who's currently earning below $400,000 will not be paying any income tax. We want to raise minimum wage to $200,000, and we want to have a graduated salary increase of up to 30%, 35% in our first year in office. All of these are measures that will put money into the pockets of people, that will enhance and broaden their disposable income. And there is going to be a rotation or a circular movement in terms of having more, being able to spend more, being able to lift your own lives and be comfortable in your job. And we want to open also or reopen the College of the Public Service that really would teach people how is it to deliver service to a population, as opposed to just taking somebody off the street and pelting them in an institution without giving them any sort of training or knowledge. So it's all about training our people to be more receptive and Putting a smile, in simpler terms, putting a simple smile on patient's face can really save half of the problem.
I also want to add that there are so many healthcare professionals in the diaspora that could definitely aid and assist. And I think there should be some kind of collaboration because I'm telling you, we're talking about some of the best healthcare physicians who are Guyanese in the diaspora that's willing to lend a hand. And there must be some kind of connection, some kind of collaboration. I want to bring back in Dr. Griffith again.
I agree with you. Before you bring back Dr. Griffith, I agree with you, but they also want to know that they're lending a hand or being physically present in a country that is safe and secure because their well-being is also important. We need to also enhance safety and security in Guyana, and we also need to ensure that we have proper housing facilities and the likes for our healthcare workers.
Thank you for that. We're going to touch on crime, but I don't think we have enough time today. I see that Donatella is back with us. Donatella, you have a chance to speak to the vice presidential candidate of the opposition party in Guyana. We're 26 days out from the election. Your question before we bring back in Dr. Griffith. We're moving.
Thank you. Hi, it is a pleasure to communicate with you here on this platform. And my concern is right along the lines of what you're speaking about in healthcare. One of the things that my small business does here in New York is I advocate. And presently, I am advocating for some seniors who are actually at home in Guyana. And I wonder if you're successful in this election, what will you do to remedy the alleged prejudicisms that I am hearing? I'm not sure if that's a word, a little baffled right now. But I am understanding from some of my seniors, especially when they're seeking, let's say something as simple as filling medication, that some medications are made available to a certain class or certain type of person versus and for lack of better words, a regular Guyanese. So, and the term Guyanese, thank you. The term that was given to me, and I don't know how to articulate it, right? Or maybe you could speak to it. The Guyanese person that I'm helping appears to be a Black man just like me, but he's explaining that there are individuals in Guyana who maybe are mixed with Indian that get preferential treatment in various situations.
So let me say, first of all, when you are in politics and you try to make up a word, it's considered being politically flexible or linguistically flexible. So you sound awesome because I understood everything you were saying.
Thank you.
Race issue is really a very major issue in Guyana. Most of our communities are predominantly one race or another. You seldom find communities that have mixed races, and most of them that do have mixed races are really the really high-level educated set of people in our country. And when I say high-level educated, I'm talking about those who may have a degree, a master's, or a PhD. Most of our people are not university graduates, but they do have special skills that I think our government is not nurturing. And we are proposing, for example, in order to develop them in their educational background, to have a greater focus in technical and vocational education. So even if you don't know to read and write, or you don't know to count, or you don't know to do things that are academically inclined, I am sure you have a talent that can be nurtured, and you can become probably the best cook in the world, probably a good tailor, a good seamstress, a good mechanic, a good mason, a good electrician. The focus on technical and vocational education is very, very important to us. To get to your question more substantively, it is indeed a problem with people and how healthcare is treated and how people address others that are of a different skin color. It is a work that has to be focused on primarily by any government. My previous government, the APNU, AFC, the coalition, they had a Ministry of Social Cohesion. And that ministry was doing tremendous work in bridging the gap that exists not only between the races, but also exists between the classes,
Mhm.
because you have the rich and you
Right.
have the poor, you have the haves and the have not. So it is all about us bridging that gap, having systems and structures that are there to treat everybody in an equal manner, and the equitable distribution of resources that will also address the problem. Fundamentally, fundamentally, what is the difference between the two major contenders in these elections? The People's Progressive Party is one set of people who are advancing a selected minority group of people to get extremely rich off the taxpayers' dollars. And the other group of people, which is the one I'm associated with, is all about putting people first, lifting the ordinary people, making the ordinary man the real man, and about investing in our majority, which is our ordinary, hardworking, tax-paying Guyanese, with the ultimate goal of raising them so that the rising tide can lift all boats. So the rich will continue to get rich, but the poor will have to also get rich. We don't want a system like what we have right now, where only the rich is getting richer and the poor are getting poorer. We want to see everybody rising at the same time.
Thank you. That's an
And then
excellent
it
answer.
comes back to how I answered Dr. Ivla Griffith's question too. You need to have strong systems and strong structures that protects people, so no politician will be able to influence and dictate to the point where they are causing great destruction, confusion, and corruption. We don't want that.
Thank you.
Thank you. Dr. Griffith, you have one more question for Mr. Nepal before we close the segment.
Thank you, Dr. Don. Ganesh, I wrote a book a couple of months ago. I want to commend it to you, looking at oil and climate change in Guyana. And I raised the troubling issue of global warming and the impact, particularly on Guyana's coast. Climate change, global warming are existential potential threats to Guyana. We know what the stretch of Atlantic coast represents, many places 6 feet below sea level. We know that the rising sea level from the Atlantic Ocean. We know that Guyana's Amazon forests produce a lot of rainfall and the flooding. Talk a little bit about your party's vision to deal with this global warming, this climate change potential reality. And in the book, I cite the statistics, which has now been out for 3-4 years. Georgetown is one of 15 cities across the world. Couple in the United States, Savannah, Georgia, New Orleans, forecast to be underwater by 2030 because of rising sea levels. What's your party's plan to deal with this global warming issue?
You know, the sad reality is that the majority of our population is within the low coastal plain, which is the part of our country that is really below sea level. And rising tides, climate change, they do have a serious, they do present a serious threat to our nation. And that is why our party's position is that we need to gradually and gradually move to higher lands through diversification, opening the lands, as I spoke earlier about investing in agriculture, have a network of road system that can have interregional connectivity and the like. So we have to move in that direction. I can say to you, Professor, that there are several proposals that we have in our manifesto, which will be released soon, that I believe you will find strong favor with. When you look at how, and you understand our geography, you will know that you can connect regions 10 to region 9, connect that to region 8, connect to region 7, and so on. So interconnectivity is a great factor to open lands so that you can then move gradually our people to higher lands. We cannot run away from the fact that there is significant investment in Georgetown. There is significant investment along the low coastal plain. And that is why this requires people like yourself and other professionals who have a clear understanding of the issue. And it comes back to the point I was making very much earlier, that politicians oftentimes must allow themselves to also be guided by technical professional people like yourself and many others who are out there. And we must have that avenue to allow intelligent, qualified people to play a role in governance too. And their role must be so technocratic that it doesn't allow them to take partisan political lines in terms of how they advance a position. But I will say to you in a nutshell that our thinking is to gradually move development into our highland regions and distribute lands to our people so that they can have access for construction, they can have access to opening new schemes and new housing development program. We are talking about a rent-to-own policy when it comes to housing that really is putting a house in the hands of the people as they would pay on a monthly basis until they pay the total cost. And there's so many other progressive ideas, progressive policies, progressive projects that we are focused on to develop Guyana. As I said to you, the difference between the red and the green is that one puts themselves first and the other puts people first. I am with the green, which is putting people first.
Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Mahipaul. I must say one thing. I think you were very, very, very transparent today, and I like that. I like the way you spoke to social and racial equality. As you close out, for the people listening across the country in Guyana and in the diaspora, what's the message? Messaging is so important, Mr. Mahipaul. What's the message you would want to leave the audience with today as we get ready for the most consequential election in the history of Guyana in 26 days?
I would like the Guyanese people to know that they can trust us with governance. I would like them to know that we are prepared to build a strong Guyana that can protect them and the future generation. I would like them to know that we are very passionate about making the ordinary man the real man. We are very passionate about having transparency and accountability at the top of the agenda. We are very passionate about protecting their money. We are very passionate about putting money in their pockets. We are very passionate about advancing their lives and making Guyana so great that people from other countries must want to come to our country. But before we can acquire or achieve that, we have to first ensure we protect what we have, we give who we have a safer environment, we develop to benefit them and their future generation, and we must have systems and structures that will not shut out the opposition, which is very much important for greater oversight and accountability. I'm passionate about it, as I said, and I will like to close by saying it was an honor being on your program. I thank you for the opportunity, and I look forward to the rigorous campaigning as we continue. And we are all about putting people first with a great leader who has been in political life for over 50 years, and not once was his name called in anything to do with corruption. That is our lean, clean, and green Aubrey Compton Norton. And when September 1 comes, the second greatest thing we will achieve, outside of the first being putting a lean, clean, and green Aubrey Norton as president, we will be able to elect the first indigenous prime minister in the name of Juretta Finance. Juretta Finance is an indigenous, academically accomplished young lady who is currently in the indigenous communities campaigning. And it is the first time Guyana will have this opportunity of electing an indigenous Guyanese woman as their prime minister. And I know that we have a great team, a competent team of great professionals and ordinary hardworking Guyanese that is ready to take the mantle, to run with it, and to develop a Guyana for all to enjoy in the future. And JR, when we're there, I know you will visit and you will see yourself how good Guyana can be with good governance, accountability, and transparency. Thank you.
Thank you. We plan to have Charita on within the next coming weeks. Also, Leader Norton. We also have to get to the Prime Minister of the PPP regime. He was supposed to be on today, Mark Phillips, but they had to reschedule. So within the next coming weeks, we'll definitely lean in with all the candidates and all the parties for this general election on September 1. Once again, thanks for joining the Reset Talk Show. And let's hope come September 2nd, we're calling you Mr. Vice President.
Thank you very much. Thank you very much.